Hey, what's up YouTube? In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a Korra statue from the Legend of Korra. If you want to make her, here's what you're going to need. You will need some sandstone block, some orange stained clay, you will also need some black wool, some brown wool, some light grey wool, you'll also need some white wool, dark blue, cyan, and finally some light blue wool. And once you have every single one of those colours right there, and once you've figured out what you want to make her, I'll be making her right here, you'll want to kick off your Korra statue with a row of 8 orange stained clay in a row on the floor. That's 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just like this. And once you have your row of 8 clay, you then want to stack a row of brown wool directly on top of your clay. Once you've done that, for the next row, starting from the left hand side and doing this sequence of blocks, do 1 orange stained clay, 2 brown wool, 2 clay, 2 brown wool, 1 clay. For the next row, again starting from the left hand side and just doing this sequence of blocks, do 1 clay, 2 white wool, 2 clay, 2 white wool, 1 clay. For the next row, do an entire row of white wool. For the next 4 rows, do 4 solid rows of dark blue. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we just have to fill them in. 2, 3, and 4. Once you have your 4 rows of dark blue, for the next row you want to do 2 black wool in the 2 center spots of the row, and then just fill everywhere else in with dark blue. For the next row, do 4 black wool in the 4 center spots of your row, and then just do dark blue everywhere else. For the next row, place a single dark blue on the ends of your row, and then just throw black everywhere else in between. For the next row, place a single light grey in the right center spot of your row, place a light blue to the left of it, and then just throw black wool everywhere else. For the next row, it's probably easiest if we build this going from left to right, so do 1 white wool, 2 black wool, 1 light blue, 1 light grey, 2 black wool, 1 white wool. For the next row, again, same thing, left to right, do 1 clay, 1 white wool, 1 black wool, 1 light blue, 1 light grey, 1 black wool, 1 white wool, 1 clay. For the next row, going from left to right once more, do 1 clay, 1 white wool, 2 light grey, 1 light blue, 1 light grey, 1 white wool, 1 clay. For the next row, do 2 light grey in the 2 center spots of your row, and then just fill the entire rest of your row in with cyan. For the next 3 rows, do 3 solid rows of cyan. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, and 3. Once you have your 3 rows of cyan, for the next row, starting from the left hand side, do 2 white wool, and then fill the rest of your row in with cyan. For the next row, again going from left to right, these last few rows will be, do 1 white wool, 1 brown wool, 2 white wool, 2 cyan, 1 brown wool, 1 white wool. For the next row, again starting from the left hand side, do 2 brown wool, 1 cyan, 2 white wool, 1 cyan, 2 brown wool. And for the final row of the front of our statue, do, starting from the left hand side, 2 brown wool, 1 white wool, 2 sandstone, 1 white wool, 2 brown wool to give you something which should in total look a little bit like this. And what we have here are Korra's legs and her torso. Once you've reached this point right here, we can now do Korra's arms. So once you have reached this point right here, come to the right hand side of your statue and come all the way down to the first row of Korra's torso, which you might not know where that is, but it's where we have this single black wool here as we come up on the side. And once you've located this black wool, you want to, going right of it, do a row of 4 sandstone. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that, to give you the first row of Korra's arm. Once you have your row of 4 sandstone, stack another row of sandstone directly on top of it. Then do 2 rows of dark blue wool on top of that, 1 and 2. Then do 2 rows of light blue wool, 1 and 2. Then do 4 more rows of dark blue, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now for the final 2 rows of the arm, starting from the left hand side here, going right, do 1 white wool, and then 3 sandstone. And as I said, you just want to have that for both of the rows. So what you want to end up with, once you've finished it, is something that should look a little bit like this. And that's exactly what you want for Korra's arm. And of course, once you've taken care of that right arm, it shouldn't give you too much trouble, it's very easy. You of course want to go ahead and do the exact same thing for the opposite arm. So coming over to the left hand side of our statue now, starting from the same black wool that we did on the opposite side, you now want to, from this block, go left by 4 with your sandstone. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you have the first row of the arm, you want to, again doing the exact same thing, stack another row of sandstone directly on top of it. Then do 2 rows of dark blue on top of that. Then do 2 rows of light blue, 1, 2. Then do 4 rows of dark blue, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And for the final 2 rows, starting from the left hand side, just do 3 sandstone. Jesus Christ, that was loud. I really do apologise for that, and I'm probably not going to remember to cut that out, so I'm sorry. That really did hurt my ear though. Anyway, carrying on, for the final 2 rows of Korra's arm, you want to do 3 sandstone and then just a single white wool. And as I said, you just want that for both rows. So what you want to end up with, and I'll show you the whole front of the statue altogether since the arms are very simple. What you want to end up with is something which should look a little bit like this, whilst I just very quickly aeroplane you, because we don't want that happening again, do we? Nah, that legitimately did hurt. I think I'm going to develop tinnitus. There's a soft ringing in my ear. Once you've got the entire front of your Korra statue completely done, just as I have, we can now move on to the back of the statue. So quite literally come round to the back of your statue and come all the way down to the bottom of it. What you want to do to start this off is, coming out from the backs of each end of the feet of your statue, you want to do this sequence of blocks. Do 2 clay and 1 brown wool, and you want to have that on both sides. So the left hand side first, as I just did, and the right hand side as well. 2 clay, 1 brown wool. And what you then want to do, once you have those 2 rows coming out of the back of the ends of the feet, is you just want to connect them together with a row of orange stained clay to give you this shape right here, a U shape. And what we basically have now is just the base for the entire statue, left, right, and the back, which we're going to be focusing on now. We're going to focus on building up the entire back of our statue, so we're just going to be focusing on these 8 back blocks first of all. So once you have this, you now, for the second row of the back of your statue, want to do an entire row of clay. For the next row, do an entire row of brown wool. For the next row, do 4 brown wool in the 4 center spots of your row, and then just throw clay everywhere else. For the next row, do an entire row of white wool. For the next 4 rows, do 4 solid rows of dark blue. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once you have your 4 rows of dark blue, for the next row do 2 white wool in the 2 center spots of the row, and then just do dark blue everywhere else. For the next row, do 2 orange stained clay in the 2 center spots of your row, do a single dark blue on the ends of your row, and then just throw white wool everywhere else. For the next row, do a single white on the ends of your row, and then just throw clay everywhere else. For the next 4 rows, do 4 solid rows of clay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once you have your 4 rows of clay, you want to, for the next 5 rows, do 5 solid rows of cyan. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And once you have your 5 rows of cyan, for the last 3 rows of Korra's back, you want to do a single white wool on the ends of your row, and then you just want to fill everywhere else in between those rows with your cyan. So, single white on the ends of the rows, and then cyan everywhere else, to give you something which should look a little bit like this. Very simple indeed, and that is the back of your Korra. Of course, all we have to do now, once you've reached this point right here, is the back of Korra's arms, which are equally as easy, if not easier, than what we've just done. So, once you've reached this point right here, all you have to do to completely finish off the back of your statue is just look at the front of your statue and copy exactly what you have. Quite literally, just copy block for block what you have on the front of your statue directly onto the back of your statue in all of the exact same positions as you have on the front, just on the back. And it's as easy as that. There is nothing more to it, and all you have to do is obviously use that beautiful 20/20 vision of yours, unless you have glasses, in which case you probably don't have 20/20 vision, in which case I apologise, but use whatever vision, even if it is lacking, to look directly at the front of your statue and copy what you have there. Of course, this fails if you guys have somehow made a mistake on the front of your statue, but we're hoping that everything's right. So, once you've copied both of the arms onto the back of your statue, you should be left with something that should look a little bit like this. Very easy indeed. And once you've taken care of the entire back of your Korra statue, once you have something which looks exactly like this, we can now move on to the sides of our statue. So, coming over to this side of your statue and coming all the way down to the bottom of the feet, you want to, for the first row of the side of your statue on top of this clay that we have here, you want to stack another row of brown wool, and that's just on top of both of those clay blocks. So, there and there. For the next 2 rows, do 2 rows of clay. So, 1 and 2. For the next row, do an entire row of white. Entire row being those 2 blocks. Sounds a little silly. And then all you want to do once you've done your white wool is just fill the entire rest of your legs in with dark blue, and what you should end up with is something that should look a little bit like this. And if you actually pay attention to like the fronts and backs of your statue, it actually makes quite a bit of sense what blocks you have to place where. So once you've got the side of the legs taken care of, we can now move up to the sides of the arms, which are easy as well. So first of all, you just want to take out your sandstone and fill in the bottoms of the arms like this with your sandstone, and then all you have to do to fill in the sides of the arms is quite simply just copy what colours you have on the front and backs of your statue and just throw whatever colour that may be in between the two. So what you want to end up with is something which should look a little bit like this, which is a lot easier than the legs, even though they were very easy. So that is what you want to have for the sides of the arms, and again, very logical. Whatever colour you have on the front and back of your statue on the left and right hand side of you, just throw that colour in between both of them. And once you've done that, you should end up with the side of the arm fully completo. And once you have this, all you have to do now is come up to the top of the shoulder and fill this in. So exact same process for the top of the shoulder. You're just basically connecting whatever colour you have on the front and back of your statue, you're just connecting both of those colours together with the exact same colour. And you only have to come in by 3 rows for the top of the shoulder. You only have to do 2 rows of sandstone and 1 row of white, and the head will take care of the rest. And once you've taken care of this side of your statue, you can now go ahead and do the exact same thing on the opposite side of your statue. So coming over to this side, we're now going to be doing the exact same thing. And I quite literally mean the exact same thing. The way that I'm doing this is I'm just looking directly forward and I'm copying what I did on that side of the statue and applying it to this side. So you guys should probably do the exact same thing, assuming that you have done the opposite side of your statue, and just very quickly, or as quickly as possible and as accurately as possible, just colour in the opposite side of Korra, which I'm doing as fast as I possibly can. Just got the final 2 rows and the shoulder to do, and what I have now that I've finished, is something which should look a little bit like this. Perfect. Looks exactly like the opposite side of your statue. And just in case I did that too quickly for anyone, all you have to do, once you've done the first side of your statue, just go all the way over to the opposite side and literally look directly forward and copy what you have on that opposite side of your statue. Very simple indeed. So once you've taken care of each side of your statue from back left to right, once you've reached this part right here, we can now move on to the final part of this tutorial. So come all the way to the front of your statue and come all the way up to the tippity top of the torso. Once you've located the top of the torso, this nice colourful row that I have highlighted right here, you want to stack a row of 8 sandstone directly on top of the top of the torso, like this. Once you've got that first row of sandstone, you now want to do 2 additional rows directly in front of that first row of sandstone, like this. Once you have your 2 additional rows of sandstone, you then want to knock out the 2 middle blocks of the second row and just replace both of those blocks with brown. I figured it'd be easier to just do it this way rather than build the colour into the row. And once you've replaced both of those blocks with brown, you've actually made the first row of Korra's face. We're now going to build up the entire rest of the face, so on top of this most outward row that we have brown in here, you want to, for the next row, do an entire row of sandstone just directly on top of it, like this. For the next row, going from left to right, do this sequence of blocks. Do 1 white wool, 1 light blue, 1 black wool, 2 sandstone, 1 black wool, 1 light blue, 1 white wool. For the next row, again going from left to right, do 1 black wool, 1 light blue, 1 white wool, 2 sandstone, 1 white wool, 1 light blue, 1 black wool. For the next row, do, going from left to right, again it's probably just easiest doing it this way, do 1 brown wool, 2 black wool, 2 sandstone, 2 black wool, 1 brown wool. For the next row, going from left to right once more, do 3 brown wool, then do 4 sandstone, 1, 2, 3, 4, then do 1 brown wool. For the next row, going from left to right, do 5 brown wool, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then 1 sandstone, then 2 brown wool. And now for the final row of Korra's face, just do an entire row of brown wool, just like this, to give you something which should look a little bit like that. And once you've got Korra's entire face taken care of, we can now do Korra's entire head. So come right the way back to the back of Korra's head, and starting from this first row of sandstone that we placed on top of the torso, you want to, with your brown wool, just extend back this row of sandstone with your brown until you overhang the back of your statue by 2 rows with your brown wool. I'm not entirely sure that that explanation makes sense, but when you take a look at it from a side view like this, it should become very apparent what I've just done there. In line with the original row of sandstone with the brown wool, we've just kind of like extended on from that sandstone with the brown until we've just went back over the back of the statue by 2 rows. And once you've got that taken care of, the next thing on our agenda is to take care of each side of Korra's head. So, starting with this side first, coming over to the right, starting from this sandstone block, you want to take out your sandstone and go left of this sandstone block by 2. So that's 1, 2. You then want to, going left of this white wall just above it, want to go left by 3. So that's 1, 2, 3. Then coming back over to the right again, going left of this black wall, you just want to do a row of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And to finish off this side of the head, you just want to place 2 single sandstone on top of those 3rd and 4th blocks. So you just want to end up with something that should look a little bit like this. And that is just Korra's left ear, or right ear, it kind of depends on perspective. That's one of Korra's ears, and once you've taken care of that on this side of your statue, you now want to go ahead and go over to the opposite side and now do the exact same thing, but of course it's now easier on the opposite side because all you have to do it on this side of the statue is of course just look over at what you've just done and copy it directly onto this side, just like that. And once you've taken care of both of Korra's ears, all you have to do to fill in the rest of the head is just come to the 2 back corners of the head, take out your brown wool, and just raise up the 2 back corners until they're in line with the front of the head, and then just connect everything together. Just turn the head into a big giant cube. That's how I always like to do it. I figure it just gives you some very clear... I almost said that Let's start that again. Once you connect all of the head together like this, turn it into a big giant cube, you give yourself some very clear guidelines on how you actually just have to fill the rest of it in with brown wool. So once you do turn the head into a big giant cube, after you've completed the ears, just fill everywhere else in with brown wool. So just as I'm doing now, just take it side by side and just fill everywhere else in with brown. Korra has an extreme amount of hair, and believe it or not, we're not actually finished once we've just filled the rest of the head in with brown. We've got even more hair to add. Unbelievable. Just filled in both sides. Now, those were a little tricky because the ears were in the way, but hey, it's probably easiest to do the ears first, just like I did, and then do the brown. And of course, I'm just filling in the top of the head, just like that. And once you've filled in the entire rest of your head in with brown wool, all we have to do now is add, like I said, a little bit of extra hair. So there's a little bit that we have to add on the left and right hand sides of her head. She has like 2 braids or a braid either side, and then she has like a ponytail thing on the top of her head. So once you've reached this point right here, once you've filled in the entire cube in with your brown wool, you want to, coming back to this side of your statue, just placing in front of your blocks, just form this shape right here that I'm just placing. Let me form the shape for you, and then let me just show you with a nice clear image, because I don't think I'm going to try and explain to you guys what blocks you've got to place where. I think that'll end terribly. So what you want to do, once you've filled the entire rest of the head in, just add these blocks onto this left-hand side of Korra's head. You just want to add that brown, that cyan, and that white in those positions on the side of Korra's head, and it probably won't be too hard for you to do. And that's just one of Korra's braids. And once you've done this on one side of the head, you now want to do the exact same thing on the opposite side of the head. So pause this if necessary, if you just add in those blocks, and once you've done that, just do the exact same thing on the opposite side. So I'm now going to do that for myself. I've got to kind of reverse it for myself because I didn't take a picture of each side. So one moment whilst I try and channel being a mirror, and I believe that that's the exact same thing. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Is it? Hang on, guys, I can do this. Yeah, there we go. I just had the brown the wrong way round on that side. So once you have both sides of the head completely taken care of, and as always, pause this if necessary if you're still working on any of that, of course, we can now move on to the next bit. So come all the way to the back of Korra's head, and with your brown wool, you basically just want to add 4 rows of brown wool, like in the center of Korra's head, just like going straight up, like going from top to bottom, just 4 rows of brown wool in the center of the back of Korra's head, like that. And once you have those 4 rows of brown wool, you now basically just want to take the 2 middle blocks from the top and bottom of the 2 middle rows and just extend them even further up and down to give you this shape right here, a more of a ponytaily shape. And once you've done that, you now want to come to the top of Korra's head and just like coming down from these brown blocks, like down as in like towards the front of the head, you just want to add these blocks, just like coming down from the brown blocks. You just want to add these 8 blocks, a little bit of white and a little bit of cyan, and I'm not exactly sure what you'd call these blocks. It's like the thing that you'd use to tie hair together, like a bobble or a scrunchie or something, but of course applied to whatever the hell you'd call it back in whenever Avatar's set. I have no idea what year it's set in, but yeah, I don't know what that's called at all. I'm not a girl, I don't have giant long hair, what am I don't know the names of these things. So you then just want to, of course, add your white, your cyan, your white, coming from that, and that will conclude all of the brown and all of the wool and all of the stuff that we have to add extra to Korra's head. And once you've done that, oh, we've got one more little thing to add actually. Come all the way to the front of your statue, and at the top of the torso here, you just want to, with your brown wool, just extend out where we have brown on the top of the torso to give you something which should look a little bit like that, just so that the hair that's like supposed to cover the top of Korra's chest is you know, it looks more like that. It looks more like hair that's just like resting in front rather than built in. And once you've done all of that, you can now relax in knowing that you have fully completed your Korra statue. So I'm just taking off the UI so that we can now just have a nice look at our Korra, just 100% put together. The sad thing is, I'm almost 100% positive that we just spent like the better part of 5 to 10 minutes doing hair, which that's a sad reality, but it is worth it. It does make the statue look quite cool. It does make it look a lot better than if you just don't add in the extra hair. Then you've just got like a nice plain square head, which there's nothing wrong with it, but I like the statues to look ever so slightly more intricate. So once you've done all of this, hopefully you should be left with this very nice looking Korra statue. And I will say this, by the way, because I thought this immediately after making it. I'm not exactly sure if there is a better skin tone colour match for Korra. I did contemplate using perhaps like light grey stained clay, or maybe like an even slightly darker colour, because obviously why can't I say it? Korra's skin tone is not just, you know, she's not white, she's not pale, she's kind of like a brownie, a mocha skin tone, and I didn't know what else to use, so I decided to stick with sandstone, even though she's obviously not just Snow White, and as a result of that, she does look a little bit like, oh my god, the name. What's the name? Hang on guys, Katara. She does look slightly like Katara, but I mean, you could mess about with skin tones and make her look ever so slightly closer, but I mean, sandstone does the job as well. She is still wearing all of the clothes and the hair is still made the same way. So hopefully you guys have managed to make this statue 100% no problem. Thanks for watching guys, and I will see you in the next video.